Most men are aging without realizing it. Not slowly, not gracefully, but silently, and far faster than the years alone can explain. They feel it in the morning, when getting out of bed costs more effort than it used to. They feel it in the fog that sits behind their eyes by mid-afternoon. They feel it in the way small problems now carry a weight that big ones once did. And the worst part is this: most of these men believe it is simply what happens. That decline is the deal, that the body winds down and the mind follows, and all you can do is slow it, with supplements, sleep, and better food. But what if the real cause of accelerated aging has almost nothing to do with your body? What if the ancient Stoics, men who led armies through brutal campaigns and commanded entire civilizations without breaking, had already mapped out the hidden forces that make men fall apart before their time? Today, you are going to discover 6 silent habits that are aging you faster than time itself. And more importantly, exactly how to stop them before they steal the years you still have ahead of you. The 5th one especially. Most men never see it coming until the damage is already done. Pay attention. For centuries, Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire from the front line of war. He did not do it from comfort. He did not do it from safety. He did it through relentless self-command, day after day, year after year, in cold and illness and the weight of a world that would not stop pressing against him. And still he remained sharp. Still he remained deliberate. Still he aged with a kind of controlled power that has outlasted everything around him. He understood something most men have forgotten: that the body follows the mind. That decay begins not in the muscles or the joints, but in the thoughts you allow to run unchecked, in the habits you allow to go unexamined, in the slow surrender of discipline that most men mistake for rest. Epictetus, who owned nothing and was owned by others, taught that the only thing that truly belongs to you is how you choose to respond to what happens around you. And when you truly understand this, everything starts to make sense. Because aging is not simply a physical process. It is a mirror of how a man commands himself from within. Look around you today. Most men in their 40s and 50s carry a look you cannot quite name. Not sick exactly, not broken, but drained, like something has been leaving them gradually for years, and they stopped noticing when it went. They still talk about getting back in shape. They still plan to start next Monday, but the aliveness is gone, the tension behind the eyes, the sense that they are still building towards something that matters. And without that, the body follows. Low energy, clouded thinking, a persistent exhaustion that no amount of sleep fully lifts. The difference between a man who ages with power and a man who simply grows old is not genetics. It is not luck. It is a set of invisible decisions made every single day. And that is exactly what you are about to see. The first sign is this: you have stopped doing hard things. Not through some dramatic decision you made. Gradually, without even noticing, the uncomfortable things fell away. The cold morning, the heavy lift, the difficult conversation you keep finding a reason to delay, the project that asks more of you than you feel ready to give, and comfort moved in to fill the space they left behind. Comfort feels like rest, but when it becomes the default setting, it becomes decay. Your body only maintains what it believes it still needs. Stop asking it to be strong, and it will stop being strong. Stop asking it to be sharp, and it will go quiet. This is not a metaphor. This is the exact mechanism by which most men age themselves a decade ahead of their years. Marcus Aurelius trained his body with the same discipline he applied to his mind, not because he chased performance, because he understood that the instrument you live through must be commanded, not indulged. He endured campaigns, illness, and exhaustion, and still demanded of himself the same standard, not because it was easy, because he knew what happened to men who chose easy. Ask yourself honestly, when did you last do something that made you want to stop? Because that moment, right there at the edge of your comfort, is where you are still fully alive. The second sign is one most men will not look at directly. You are carrying anger that has no name. Old resentment kept alive by rehearsing it. Arguments from years ago that still play out in your head on long drives, in quiet moments, at 3 in the morning, when there is nothing left to distract you. You may not even call it anger. You call it being realistic about certain people. You call it remembering how things actually went. But underneath all of it, it is resentment. And it is costing you far more than you know. What the Stoics understood, and what modern science has now confirmed, is that sustained emotional tension does not stay in the mind. It lives in the body. It raises the hormones that drive inflammation. It disrupts sleep at a cellular level. It accelerates the very processes of physical decay that most men are trying to fight with their diet and their training. A man who carries chronic bitterness is not just suffering emotionally, he is physically destroying himself. Every single day he holds on to what he cannot change. The disciplined man does not suppress his anger. He examines it. He asks what inside him is still being disturbed and why it still has power. He refuses to let the behavior of other people become a slow poison running through his own blood. Because no grudge is worth a year of your health. The third sign will challenge you. And if you are willing to be honest, you will recognize it. You avoid thinking about death, not because you are fearless, because the thought makes you deeply uncomfortable. So you stay busy. You keep moving, planning, consuming, doing. Anything to keep that particular truth from settling in. And in doing so, without realizing it, you start living smaller, safer choices, lower ambitions, less urgency. Because without the reality of your own mortality held clearly in view, there is always time, always next year, always when things calm down. The Stoics called this practice memento mori. Remember that you will die, and it was not intended to create dread. It was intended to create precision. Marcus Aurelius returned to this truth again and again in his private writings, not because death haunted him, but because clarity about death liberated him. It stripped away every distraction. It made every remaining day carry real weight. Every morning became a deliberate act, because he knew the currency he was spending was finite and could not be recovered. The man who truly understands his mortality does not waste a decade drifting. He moves. He builds. He chooses. And every choice carries the weight of someone who knows the clock is real. If you want to keep building that kind of urgency, that kind of clarity, that kind of self-command, subscribe now to this channel, because every video here is built for the man who is done drifting and ready to live with power and intention. That is the work we do here. But this is where most men stop. They feel something true for a moment, then the moment passes and the old patterns return. Do not let that happen here. The fourth sign destroys more men silently than any of the others. You have stopped building towards something. Maybe the goal you spent years chasing is done. Maybe the children are grown and the career has plateaued. Maybe you simply ran out of a clear next chapter and something quietly collapsed in the space that left behind. And without forward movement, your biology interprets it as a signal that your work here is complete, that there is nothing important enough left to sustain, and it begins to wind down accordingly. Epictetus spoke about living in accordance with your nature, fulfilling the role you were built to play. The Stoics called this logos. Not a vague concept, a practical one. A man with direction, with something worth building, behaves differently from a man who is simply passing time. The man who always has something he is building, who wakes up with a reason bigger than how he feels that morning, does not age the same way. He cannot. His whole system receives the signal that it is still needed, still in use, still fighting for something worth fighting for. What are you building right now that will not let you slow down? If you cannot answer that question immediately, that is your answer. The fifth sign is invisible to most men because the entire world around them is doing the same thing. You are feeding your mind without ever training it. Hours of content every single day absorbed, consumed, reacted to, but never produced, never tested, never truly thought through. You are filling your mind the way you might fill a room with furniture, more and more arriving, but nothing ever being truly built inside it. The Stoics prized what they called the hegemonikon, the commanding faculty of the mind, the part of you that directs your attention, filters your reactions, and governs how you meet the world. Think of it as the control room of everything you are. And like every other faculty, if it is not exercised, it weakens, gradually, quietly, in ways you will not notice until the sharpness is already gone. Read something that resists you. Write down what you actually think before you reach for someone else's opinion. Sit with a difficult question long enough for something real to surface. These are not suggestions. They are maintenance. The mind that is commanded stays sharp. The mind that is simply fed goes soft. And a soft mind ages the man who carries it, whether he notices or not. The sixth sign is the most quietly destructive of all. And it is the one that no training program, no morning routine, and no nutritional protocol can reach until you address it at its root. You are grieving the man you used to be, not openly, not dramatically, but in quiet moments when an old photograph surfaces, or you feel the difference between your body at 30 and your body now. Something moves through you, a grief, a resistance, a low, constant mourning for the version of yourself that time has taken. And that grief is exhausting you in ways that no amount of rest can restore. The Stoics called the alternative amor fati, love of what is. Not passive acceptance that erases ambition, not a surrender that settles for less, but a full, deliberate decision to embrace exactly where you are, to command yourself from the ground you actually stand on, rather than spending your energy mourning the ground you have already crossed. Because the man who is at war with his own age cannot age well. That war costs him everything he needs to fight everything else. But the man who looks clearly at where he is, who takes what this stage of life offers and refuses to waste it on comparison, that man does not simply age. He deepens. He becomes more of something rather than less. And that is not something time can take from him. Now stop and think about this clearly. If you keep the same habits, the same quiet surrenders, the same patterns you have been running for years, your body and your mind will keep moving in the direction they are already heading. But if you address even one of these 6 signs, even one, something shifts. Not gradually over years, quickly, because the body responds to being commanded. More energy, more clarity, more sharpness, more of the feeling that you are still building rather than simply enduring, and more of the only thing that actually keeps a man truly young, not his age on paper, but his sense that what he is doing still matters. None of this comes from luck. It comes from a decision you can make right now, the decision to stop aging by default and start living by design. If this video reached something real in you, do not let it pass. Subscribe now to this channel, because this is where you build the kind of mind and discipline that time cannot take from you. And tell me in the comments which of these 6 signs you need to face most directly today. Because naming it is not weakness. Naming it is the first act of a man who is ready to change. You do not fight time. You command yourself through it.